She had been nervous all morning, pacing in front of her closet as sunlight spilled through the windows, illuminating the soft carpet beneath her feet. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman poised yet anxious, dressed in a simple pastel dress that flowed just above her knees, paired with elegant flats that clicked softly against the wooden floor as she moved. Her friends had insisted she'd go on a blind date, claiming it would be fun, that she needed a distraction from the monotony of her busy life. But she had agreed reluctantly, reminding herself that she had little to lose. The city hummed beyond. The window, a mixture of car horns, distant chatter, and the occasional bark of a dog. Yet her mind was consumed with the anticipation of meeting a complete stranger. She checked her phone again, confirming the cafe address, and tried to steady her racing heart with deep breaths. She wanted this meeting to be simple, lighthearted, a chance to laugh and forget her responsibilities, even if only for a short while. When she arrived at the cafe, she found it bustling with life. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweetness of baked pastries, and she felt a strange comfort in the warmth of the space. She arrived a little early, choosing a corner table where she could watch the entrance, adjusting the hem of her dress and brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. She sipped her cappuccino nervously, letting the frothy milk cool her lips and calm her thoughts. Minutes passed, and just as she began to wonder if he would arrive at all, a man stepped through the door. He looked ordinary, modestly dressed, in a plain shirt and trousers, carrying a worn leather bag that suggested he had traveled or carried something of importance. His posture was confident but not arrogant, and when he smiled at her, it was warm and genuine, instantly putting her at ease. He greeted her politely, and she returned the greeting, surprised at the calm assurance in his voice. They exchanged introductions, and she quickly realized he had a way of making small talk feel effortless, as if they had known each other for years. He ordered a simple coffee, and she chose a latte, and they sat across from each other, the distance between them shrinking as conversation flowed naturally. She laughed at his jokes, shared stories of her childhood, and he listened intently, nodding at the right moments, asking questions that made her feel genuinely seen. He had a subtle charm, a quiet intelligence, and a patience that made her feel safe in his presence, even as her mind whispered cautions about trusting someone she had just met. As she spoke about her dreams, her career, and the struggles that had shaped her, she noticed the way his eyes followed her movements, the careful attention he gave to her every word, yet she did not suspect his true identity. She mentioned a fleeting memory of her first love, calling a boy she had admired in school, someone whose name she had whispered in her heart for years without hope of reunion. As she spoke, he felt a sharp pang in his chest, recognizing the girl he had loved long ago, the same innocent, vibrant spirit that had captivated him when they were both young. He had grown into a man of immense influence, CEO whose decisions shaped industries, but in this moment, he was simply a man caught between memory and the present, longing to reconnect without revealing his true self too soon. He wanted to observe her, to understand the woman she had become, and to ensure that the love he once felt had not faded in the time they had been apart. They spoke for hours, the cafe staff glancing occasionally as the evening crowd thinned, but neither of them noticed the passage of time. Every laugh, every shared memory, and every gentle tease built a bridge between them, a connection that neither had anticipated. She felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity, a warmth that reminded her of something long forgotten. Yet she could not place why her heart felt so light around this seemingly ordinary man. He asked her about her ambitions, her fears, and the dreams she still held close. And she answered openly, the words spilling from her heart without hesitation. He listened, absorbing every detail, remembering the way she had once laughed under the bright sun in schoolyards, and the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke passionately about life. As the night deepened, he suggested they take a walk to a nearby park, and she agreed, feeling a sense of excitement mixed with comfort. The streets were quiet, lit softly by street lamps that reflected on the wet pavement, and the air carried the faint scent of blooming flowers from a nearby garden. They walked side by side, talking about trivial things and profound truths. And with every step, the invisible thread of fate seemed to pull them closer. She felt a joy she had long forgotten, a sensation of being seen, valued, and understood. While he wrestled with the desire to reveal himself and the need to test her heart first, at one point, she laughed at a story from her teenage years, a memory of youthful embarrassment and first crushes, and he felt his chest tighten, remembering that he had been the boy she once loved without knowing it. They reached a fountain. In the park, its water shimmering under the moonlight. And they sat on the edge, watching the gentle ripples and sharing quiet confessions. She spoke about the choices she had made, the challenges she had overcome, and the dreams she still hoped to pursue, and he marveled at her resilience and grace, recognizing the girl he had admired all those years ago. He wanted to reach out, to touch her hand, to tell her that he had never forgotten her. But he restrained himself, knowing that the right moment for revelation had not yet come. The night seemed endless, filled with a sense of possibility, and as they finally rose to leave, they promised to meet again, a promise neither of them questioned. She walked away with a fluttering heart, a mix of excitement and curiosity about the man she had just met. Unaware that he had once been the center of her youthful dreams, he remained in the shadows, watching her disappear into the city lights, silently vowing to reveal the truth when the time was right. To reclaim the love that had never truly faded, and to ensure that the girl he had loved all those years ago would know that sometimes life offered second chances to those who waited patiently and loved deeply. The city around them continued its quiet rhythm, but in that moment, only the memory of their shared laughter and the unspoken connection mattered, a delicate promise of destiny weaving their past and present together. The next morning, she woke up with a sense of lingering excitement, her heart still fluttering from the previous night. The memory of his smile, the warmth in his eyes, and the way he had listened to her so intently haunted her thoughts. As she went about her daily routine, she poured herself coffee, trying to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting back to him, to the feeling that she had known him far longer than just a few hours. She replayed every detail, every laugh, every pause, every fleeting glance, wondering if she would ever see him again. At the same time, he was already awake, reviewing his schedule, but his mind was consumed by her presence, by the soft cadence of her voice and the gentle energy she radiated. He had arranged his day meticulously, yet every task seemed trivial. Compared to the anticipation of meeting her again, he wondered how she would react if she knew the truth. She realized that the ordinary man she had met was actually the CEO she had admired from afar, and whose reputation filled the business world. He decided to continue the ruse a little longer, wanting to see her reactions untainted by knowledge of his wealth and power, to understand the depth of her heart, and to relive the emotions that had never faded from his own. He sent her a message, keeping it casual, suggesting a simple lunch at a quiet cafe she liked. She smiled when she saw his text, feeling a strange sense of familiarity and comfort, and quickly agreed. When they met again, she noticed the same warmth in his eyes, the same gentle charm, but this time there was a subtle difference, a quiet confidence that she could not place. They ordered food, sat by the window, and once again, conversation flowed effortlessly, as if they were picking up where they had left off, though neither had spoken of the previous evening. She spoke about her dreams in more detail, about her recent successes at work, and about the challenges she faced, and he listened with admiration, marveling at her resilience and intelligence. He asked questions, not out of curiosity alone, but to see her passion, to see if she still carried the same spark he had remembered from their youth. She laughed at his observations, teasing him lightly about his modest appearance and his quiet demeanor, and he smiled, pretending not to notice the faint blush creeping across her cheeks when she laughed. As the lunch continued, he noticed small details that reminded him of the past, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke with excitement, and he felt a rush of emotions he had thought he had buried long ago. He wanted to tell her the truth, to remove the disguise, but he restrained himself, understanding that the joy of rediscovery was worth the temporary secrecy. After lunch, he suggested a walk through a nearby garden, a place filled with blooming flowers, winding paths, and the soft hum of nature. She agreed, delighted by the idea, and they strolled side by side, their conversation turning to lighter topics, shared childhood memories, and dreams of the future. She spoke about her family, her aspirations, and the kind of life she imagined, and he listened silently, impressed by her strength, her kindness, and her unwavering optimism. Every now and then he caught himself staring at her, marveling at how fate had brought them together again. How the universe had allowed a reunion that seemed impossible only moments before. She noticed a flicker of emotion in his eyes, but dismissed it as curiosity or interest, unaware that the man beside her was the very boy she had once loved. As the afternoon progressed, he asked her to share a personal story, something that mattered deeply to her, and she recounted a tale of her teenage years of dreams, heartbreaks, and the first experiences of love and loss. He listened intently, every word resonating with memories of their shared past, memories she had long forgotten but he had held on to for years. He marveled at how she had grown, how the trials of life had shaped her into a woman of depth, intelligence, and grace, and he felt a renewed admiration that bordered on awe. They sat on a bench by a small pond, watching the ripples in the water, and he noticed how she seemed at peace, how her laughter filled the space, and how her presence seemed to light up the world around her. He was torn between revealing the truth and keeping the disguise a little longer, wanting to savor the innocence of her reactions, the genuine connection they shared without the weight of his true identity. She leaned forward, sharing a dream she had nurtured secretly for years, and he found himself silently promising to help her achieve it when the time was right. He admired her resilience, the way she had faced life's challenges with courage, and the way she still carried hope in her heart, despite setbacks. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, he felt a pull in his chest, a desire to bridge the gap between past and present, to let her know that he was the one who had loved her first, who had never stopped loving her, and who had been patiently waiting for this moment. He hesitated, aware that a sudden revelation could overwhelm her, yet he longed for her to see the truth, to understand that their connection was not a coincidence, that destiny had been quietly guiding them toward each other all these years. She smiled at him, completely unaware of the storm of emotions he felt, and he realized how deeply he cared, how much he wanted to protect her, cherish her, and finally be recognized as the man she had once loved. As they walked back to the city streets, he suggested a coffee shop for a quick drink, prolonging their time together, and she agreed, laughing at his insistence, feeling a sense of joy and ease she had not felt in years. Inside the cozy cafe, they sat across from each other once more, talking, laughing, and sharing moments of vulnerability that drew them closer than either had expected. He studied her face, memorizing every detail, every expression, and felt a rush of longing, knowing that time had not diminished his love, but had strengthened it. She talked about her past relationships lightly, unaware that he was the first and only love who had ever truly mattered, and he felt a mix of amusement and melancholy, marveling at the irony of the situation. As night fell, they reluctantly parted, promising to meet again soon. And she walked away with a fluttering heart, feeling a sense of destiny she could not explain. He watched her disappear into the night, his heart full, yet burdened with the need to reveal the truth, knowing that the moment of confession would change everything. The city lights reflected in the wet streets, the air was crisp and quiet. And he whispered silently to himself, vowed to reveal his identity when the time was right, to ensure that she understood that their love had never faded, that their hearts had always been connected, and that the universe had been patiently waiting for this reunion. The next day arrived with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. He had decided that today would be the day he revealed the truth. He could no longer hide behind the disguise, knowing that their connection had grown too strong, their hearts too intertwined, and the moments they shared too precious to continue the pretense. He invited her to dinner at a restaurant he claimed was modest, but in reality, it was a place he knew she would love, filled with soft lighting, elegant decor, and a quiet ambiance that allowed conversations to flourish. She arrived slightly early, as always, her heart racing, a mixture of curiosity and excitement urging her forward. When he arrived, he was dressed casually, yet there was a subtle refinement in the way he carried himself, a quiet confidence that she noticed immediately. She smiled, feeling the same warmth she had felt on their first meeting, and he returned it with a gaze that held both affection and anticipation. They ordered dinner and began talking, the conversation flowing effortlessly. But he felt the weight of the truth pressing on him, the secret that had lingered for too long. He watched her laugh, listened to her stories, and cherished the way. Her eyes sparkled when she spoke passionately. She was beautiful, intelligent, and kind, the same girl he had loved years ago. He had grown into a remarkable woman of depth and strength. As the dinner progressed, he found a moment of courage and gently said her name in a way that made her look up sharply. There was a pause, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes, and then he took a deep breath and removed the hat and coat that had concealed his identity. Her eyes widened as recognition dawned, her mind racing to comprehend the impossible truth. Man who had pretended to be poor, the man who had made her laugh and listen to her heart without judgment, was the CEO she had admired from afar and the first love she had never forgotten. She could not speak at first, her mind overwhelmed by a mixture of shock, disbelief, and excitement. Tears welled up in her eyes as the memories of their youth collided with the reality of the present. A flood of emotion she had tried to bury rushing back with full force. He reached across the table and took her hand gently, his touch warm and familiar, and said that he had never forgotten her, that no matter how many years had passed, she had always been in his heart. She felt her entire body tremble, the years of longing, hope, and unanswered questions converging in that single moment. She whispered his name, unable to hold back the tears, and he smiled softly, assuring her that all of this was real, that he had orchestrated their reunion because he wanted to see her happiness, to reconnect with the love that had never truly faded. They talked for hours, recounting the past, sharing the stories they had never told each other, and laughing at the coincidences that life had presented. She realized that he had not only remembered her, but had been watching over her in subtle ways, ensuring her safety and happiness from afar. Her heart swelled with a mixture of relief, joy, and awe as she saw the depth of his love, the sincerity in his eyes, and the patience with which he had waited to reveal the truth. He confessed that he had tested her, wanting to know if she was the same kind, compassionate, and genuine person he had loved before. And she laughed through her tears, realizing that fate had played a masterful hand. They left the restaurant, together, walking under the city lights, hands entwined, hearts aligned, and she felt a sense of completeness she had never known before. He showed her the world he had built, not with arrogance or pride, but with the hope of sharing it with the woman who had always been his heart. She felt cherished, respected, and loved in a way that transcended wealth, status, or appearances. A love rooted in years of longing, patience, and destiny. Over the following days, their connection deepened. As he introduced her to the life he had created while still cherishing the memories of their youth, they laughed, cried, and dreamed together, realizing that the universe had given them a second chance, a gift of rediscovered love that neither would take for granted. She marveled at how he had orchestrated their reunion, how carefully he had balanced patience and intention, and how deeply he had cared even when she had no idea who he truly was. He marveled at her resilience, her warmth, and the depth of her heart, feeling that every year of waiting, every challenge he had faced, had led to this perfect moment. Their love story, once interrupted by time and circumstance, now blossomed with an intensity and joy that neither had imagined possible. The nights they spent together were filled with laughter, tender moments, and whispered promises of a future they would build side by side. Every day he reminded her, through actions and words, that she was valued, respected, and cherished. She realized that this love was unlike any she had ever known. The blind date that had begun as a simple encounter had transformed into a journey of rediscovery, reunion, and the rekindling of a first love that had never truly faded. She felt as if destiny itself had guided her steps, leading her to the man she had always loved, in the guise of a stranger, to test the strength of her heart and to bring them together at the perfect moment. and in the quiet moments when they simply sat together, hands intertwined, eyes meeting, there was an unspoken understanding that they had been given a rare gift, a love that had endured time, distance, and circumstance. Their hearts beat in synchrony, filled with gratitude, wonder, and a deep, abiding love, knowing that their past had shaped their present, and their present would shape a future built on trust, devotion, and the certainty that first love, when true, never truly fades. The city around them continued its bustling rhythm, but in their world time seemed to slow, allowing them to savor every shared glance, every whispered word, and every moment of this extraordinary reunion. She realized that life had tested them, both that the years apart had only strengthened their bond, and that this second chance was the most precious gift either of them had ever received. And as they walked together, hearts open, spirits aligned, and love rekindled, they understood that the journey they had begun as young, innocent hearts had now come full circle, blossoming into a love that would endure all trials, celebrate all joys, and remain unshakable for the rest of their lives.